content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. This is the place where black men can express themselves freely. Straight up, no chasers, man. And before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all of my gorillas. I want to give a shout out to Coach DC, D Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Infamous Chillin', I Am Black Man, John Reads Too Much, Netretra, Leroy Honeycutt, True King 337, B Hillfire, Force Windu, Michael Caviness, Urban Nomad, Raphael Brown, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Ab Media 83, Damon Harris, Brian McMurray, Mr. Lumeth, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Shop Talk Live, Ryan Jackson, The Face, The Heat, David the Man, Afro Analyst, NEU, Ronan Martin, Black Quizzard ADOS, Camp Low, Issa Abdul Sahir, Sir Anthony, Deshaun Nolly, MLR, Charles Rogers, Black Dog, Universal 178, Black Sword 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, C-Troop the Revelator, Gold Professor, The Nameless Protagonist, Black Pill Ned Stark, Arthur Unknown, Odd Collard, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Boy Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, W. Pierre 1, Rogish the Build Monker, I Care, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. I'd like to give y'all a round of applause and thank you for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for all you do for helping to make the Green Gorilla channel better and brighter. Thank you. And if you are inquiring about how you can become a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely. Straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. We're back, and you know, that's how you can become a member of Green Gorilla channel. before I get things started, I got to address this guy, man. I gave him an invitation to come on the show and to avoid all of the bickering and the back and forth exchanges over the comment section. But he couldn't seem to do that. It was almost as if he was attempting to alert me to the fact that fuck your request. Fuck you. Fuck being a man. Fuck respect. I have a viewpoint, and my viewpoint is better than yours, and I don't want to debate you. I don't want to have a conversation with you. I just want to act like a little bitch in the comment sections. Come on, man. I thought we were better than that. And then my overarching question is, seriously, what the fuck are you doing in the space? Like, what are you here for? I don't understand it. Are you here in this particular space to harass content creators? Like, are you a man? I mean, do you show up when you're called out? Or are you pusillanimous? Like, what is it? I'm just asking a question. Does anybody know this guy? Like, his name is Ricky Styles. That's the moniker he goes with on YouTube. Do you know this motherfucker? Does anybody know this guy? Because my invitation still stands, but after the night, it won't stand anymore. If you don't like what you hear here, it's easy, man. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other content that you can observe. If you don't like what you hear in this space, you don't have to be here, man. You don't. Ricky Styles. I'm like, come on, bruh. We're talking about black folks in the United States and their economic predicament. And the only thing that this guy can come up with is the idea that black people are where they are because they don't have financial literacy. That's the reason. We don't have any economic progress because, in fact, I put up some data that demonstrated what he considered to be a trend. And I think he perceives the trend as something that is caused by, ideologically connected to, the innate moral inferiority of black people who spend too much time buying Air Jordans, lace front weaves, and eating chicken wings in strip joints. So that's the reason why black people don't have money, right? Because of the strip club, Air Jordans, and lace front weaves. Really? That sounds like some racist shit to me. But I don't know if this guy's black or white, red, brown, yellow, purple. I have no idea. But I have invited this man or this woman or whoever the fuck it is. I've invited them to come to the channel, and I'm still inviting tonight this individual to come to the channel. I'm inviting this individual to come to the channel. Come on through. Come on through. Because either you're going to handle this like a man, or you're going to tuck your tail and run and hide like a little old bitch. And yeah, I'm calling you a little old bitch because I asked you not to be all up in the comment section with snarky comments and remarks. I asked you to do that, but you didn't do it. You decided that you wanted to continue to come into the comment section with the snarky comments and remarks. And I already had said that I don't have a problem with inequality. to a certain extent. And I don't think you can eradicate it. I think it's something that can't be thoroughly eliminated in any culture. There are going to be differences in talent, effort maximization, and a whole host of other features and functions of social interaction they're going to create inequality. And I get that. I understand that. But yet and still, that does not account for the fact that the majority of the wealth and the shares of ownership in the corporations in this country are 95% owned by white folks. So I guess all black folks are just lazy, shiftless, spineless, shucking, jiving, non-hardworking, non-industrious, lazy motherfuckers. I mean, that sounds exactly like the language that white people use. I'm just being honest about this, man. Like, do you have a white man? Look, I was about to say something real deprecating, but like, come on, man. You got your arms wrapped that far around master's ankles, man? Really? I'm taking them in. I can't take callers, but the invite is here. I'm inviting. I'm asking. I'm begging. I'm begging. So the invite is there. I'll post it again so that people can have access to it before I begin to say what it is that I have to say. But the reality of the situation is, it is ridiculous to me. It's absurd for an individual to know the history of the United States, where black people, primarily black men, started off as slaves and had their labor extracted for free for generation after generation after generation after generation after generation. And shortly thereafter, black people were freed. The Emancipation Proclamation, after approximately 250 years or so of non-exchangeable labor, slave labor. After which, there was Jim Crow. There was a short period for maybe 15 years or so where there was Reconstruction. So, after Reconstruction, black people were subjected to Jim Crow. And during Jim Crow, they were subjected to usurious contracts, sharecropping contracts, where it was virtually impossible to get out of debt related to the lending stipulations of these contracts. Many of these people didn't even know that they were free. Still hadn't gotten word of the fact that they were free. There were programs set aside that subsidized poor white men and immigrants in this country during the Great Depression, the Great Works projects, federal housing loans, which black people were not given access to. There were GI bills, or the GI Bill, that black people were not granted access to. But before then, you did have a series of black people who decided to, through the Washingtonian industriousness that was advocated by Booker T. Washington himself and his acolytes, they went on and forged towns and communities that were prosperous, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, which subsequently were burned down, destroyed, eradicated, and the white people took over the property through force and through violence. So even when black people did make an attempt to gain some sort of economic floor, it was taken away from them. Not through their lack of industriousness, some moral flaw or failure on their part, but just through blind force related to race. Plain and simple. Let me stop the music, because I gotta stop this, man. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. For Ricky Styles to come on in. I did ban him from making comments on the channel, but you still have the capacity, the ability to click the link that was left in the comment section here or the chat. You still have the capacity to get here, Mr. Styles. You see, what I don't like are arguments that try to demonstrate that black people are innately inferior, culturally inferior, ontologically inferior. For what? What is that supposed to do for the manosphere, the black manosphere? What type of bullshit is that supposed to be? Mr. Ricky Styles? What is it supposed to be? What is it supposed to accomplish? I'm asking. Because when I hear these kinds of arguments, all I hear is internalized racism. That's what I hear. I hear a black person who hates themselves and they hate their culture. And instead of trying to drive the culture forward, they'll adopt white people's talking points and think as if they're saying something ingenious, clever, shrewd, astute. And to me, it amounts to Chicken George, step and fetch it, shuck and jive it niggerism. That's what it sounds like to me. And again, I've asked this individual to come bring his ass here. Bring your motherfucking ass here, man. Shots fired. You want to talk about wealth inequality in the United States? And I point out the fact that white people own 95% of the wealth in the nation. Black people own 1%. Hispanics own 1%. And the other group fluctuates anywhere between what? 3% to 6%? So we already know that white people comprise 60% of the American population. We know this. We know that black people comprise approximately 13% of the American population, Hispanics 18%, and then you have all the others. who typically are construed, when you speak others, you're talking about Native Americans and Asians and Pacific Islanders, who typically are construed as model minorities. Typically. Well, maybe not the Native Americans, but yes, the Asians, yes, who, when they graduate from college, they typically out-earn their white counterparts. So then the question becomes, why haven't they been able to make any headway in relation to their share of ownership of the major corporations in the United States? Why? Why? Explain it. Because one could argue they're more knowledgeable, more culturally superior, if you want to use the standards that you've laid out and put before me. They're supposed to be a model minority. They out-earn their white counterparts. They're industrious and so on and so forth. Why aren't they making shrewd investments to the point where they have a greater share of ownership in the major investments of the multinational corporations that exist within the confines of the United States? Why not? Huh? And one could argue, and I see what Dollar Will is saying, that, look, we're not asking for them to compete and gain more of a share than white folks. That's not what I'm saying. One would expect that if they're more studious and industrious and they're a model minority, then why don't they at least have a share of ownership that is commensurate with their population? Why not? Why not? And then another point that's often regurgitated over and over and over and over is that black people just spend their money on wasteful things. But it still doesn't account for the fact that white folks own 95% of the wealth. 95%. And then another argument that's made is that, well, people lose wealth over generations. So within 2 to 3 generations, most families, they lose all their wealth. I told you. I made the case. I made the point. This is a fact. That 1% of the wealthiest Americans own over 60% of the entire wealth of the country. And then, in response to that, I get some shit about black people shucking and jiving and buying Jordans and 20-inch rims. What type of coonery and buffoonery is this, man? We're talking about structural injustices embedded within the framework of the basic structure of this society. And then you get, I don't know how else to put this. People who are so thoroughly indoctrinated with the idea of their own inferiority that if Master bump his knee and hurt his knee on the table, he hurt too. What us done did, boss? What us done did? How us done hurt ourselves? But they eat don't make you shit, boy. So back to the argument at hand about the loss of wealth within generations. Let's look at some of the wealthiest families in the United States and see if they've lost their wealth. Shall we do that? Shall we go on that excursion, that little journey, so we can once and for all give an accounting of whether or not the uber wealthy are losing their money over generations? Let's do it. Let's do it, shall we? I'm going to change the screen. I'm assuming that you can see this. I don't know if you can, but I'm assuming you can. Billion-dollar dynasties. These are the richest families in America. Forbes. And look, money causes rich people to do ignorant shit. Because, as Forbes says, and I'm not going to read all of this, just because these families are super rich doesn't mean they're happy. And for some reason, people who don't have a lot of money consider themselves to be less well off in relation to happiness than those people who do. People who have practiced philosophy since ancient times have pointed out that money by itself or wealth by itself is not a determinant of happiness. Not having any money at all might not bring you happiness. It might be a cause for lamentations or some such, misery. But just having money in and of itself is not going to make sure that you're going to live the good life. And 6 of the families here have had public feuds, battles over trust funds, sham adoptions, even murder accusations over money. But I digress. Let's look at the Walton family. They're worth $247 billion. Their fortune is up, not down, up. I can click the link. It'll take me to another page that determines when they basically got their wealth. So they're the owners of Walmart. One could argue that they're somehow, or to some degree, new money. They're new money, relatively speaking. Then you have the Koch family, worth $100 billion. Their fortune is up. The Mars family, they're worth $94 billion. Their fortune is up. The origin of their wealth is in candy. The Cargill McMillan family, worth $47 billion. Their fortune is up. Let's find out what they do and where their money came from. The company was founded in 1865. What about losing money, motherfucker? W.W. Cargill started a grain storage business in Conover, Iowa, 1865, around the time of the Emancipation Proclamation. Families lose wealth. Okay, I get it. Maybe not the uber wealthy. What about the Lauder family? The Estee Lauder family. They're worth $40 billion. Their wealth is up. The S.C. Johnson family, who owns cleaning products, $37 billion, fortune is up. Edward Johnson family, $36 billion, fortune is up. Koch family, $34.5 billion. They just broke even. The Pritzker family, $32.5 billion. Their fortune is up. When did the Pritzker family start? 1986, created Hyatt. Fortune is up. Doesn't look like they're losing. The Newhouse family, newspapers and magazines. Their fortune is up. 1979, started in 1992. Started in 92 as advanced publications. Wealth is up. I'm doing all this to demonstrate What the fuck are you talking about when you say the wealthy lose their cash? Bullshit. The Duncan family's down. The Hearst family's down. The Brown family is up. They got a liquor business. When did the Brown family start? 1870. Losing money in generations real quick, huh? Mm-hmm. The Butt family. Hold on, wait a minute, I missed one. The Marshall family. Their fortune is up. When did the Brown family start? Wonder. Let's look and see. 1870. God damn. So much for the argument that motherfuckers lose their money. The Butt family, 17.8 billion. Supermarkets. The Bush family. Oh, I know about the Bush family, St. Louis, where I'm from. The DuPont family. Their fortune is up. When did the DuPont family start their business? Let me see. 1802. Guess they can't keep their cash because, families generally tend to lose money doing a goddamn generational transfer. The Hunt family, fortune is up. Dorrance family, up. Ziff family, even. Kathy family, up. Stryker family, up. Goldman family, new money. Rollins family, up. Gallup family, up. Reyes family, up. Kohler family, new. Mellon family, even. Smith family, up. Bass family, up. Sackler family, down. Johnson family, up. Marriott family, up. Crown family, up. Hughes family, up. Piggott family, up. Schoen family, up. Don and Doris, the Fishers, they lost some money. They probably lost a couple of million, 100 million or so. They're down. The Jenkins family, up. Ko family, up. Charles and Rupert family, down. God damn. Phipps family, up. Rockefeller family, down. Scripps family, up. Bechdel family, up, 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 up. New, up, up. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say up, 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 up? Well, what's the point of me coming out with all that or saying all that? I'm sick and tired of hearing the coon talk. I'm making a point about the basic structure of the society in which we live. And notice how you don't see among the families any darkies. You might see some slight foreign folks there, but you don't see any black folks there, do you? Huh? Fuck no. You bring the point up to a coon, the first thing they start doing is talking about black inferiority and black indolence and laziness. That's the first thing they say. We need to stop going to the chicken wings, though, the strip club and getting chicken wings. You should make chicken wings at home, because then you can save us some money and get some bits of coins. And then, you can put $200 aside and save your little coins and your little monies. Are you fucking serious, man? We talking about wealth in this country and how it's distributed. And the only thing you can come up with is lace front weaves, Air Jordans, 20-inch rims, and fucking chicken wings in the strip club? What type of coon shit is this? I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for you like a man to come forward and tell me how you don't like niggas. How you think niggas are irresponsible? I'm waiting for you to do it because that's what I'm hearing. Then the guy tells me there's no such thing as the Southern strategy as it pertains to politics. It's a myth. It's a lie. Like, white politicians on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, do not play the racial game when it comes to politics. Then I gave the guy a link to Lee Atwater's briefing, where he was talking to a host or a cadre of reporters, and he basically said, listen, I'm not going to say it, but if I was a statistician or, psychologist, which I'm not saying I am, but if I was saying it, I'd say something like, okay, well, we're going to talk about race, but we're not going to talk about it explicitly. We're going to put it on the back burner. So when we say things like force busing, well, we know it's about race, but it's not explicit, so we can't say anything to you about it. So, I'm not saying that it is, but, hey, you draw your own inferences from the information which I'm imparting to you at this very time. And he says, well, in the 1950s, it was okay to say nigger and to say we don't want niggers to have certain opportunities. But then you can't say it anymore if it hurts you in politics. So now you got to say the same thing, but you got to use a little bit of coded language. So when you say force busing, you say states' rights, and you say, let's cut taxes. And, what you're saying is not anything overtly or explicitly directed towards black people, but the consequences are that it tends to hurt blacks. Here you have a person who was a campaign strategist for Ronald Reagan saying this, and then you got a coon who'll come up and say, oh, the Southern strategy is a myth. What a coon. What a fucking coon. And look, I'm not pulling any punches, man. And look, I could see if he was talking about social programs and how, the intrusion of government along the lines of family life was problematic. However, when you start talking about the distribution of wealth in this nation and how it's stratified along the lines of race, and then you come in and you tell me that I'm somehow fabricating, I'm imagining, I'm, working around with lies, and for what? To what end? Why? Because I'm been fed a steady dose of Marxism? Because I want everyone to have the same thing? Because I'm trying to take away your wealth? Mr. Styles, what the fuck wealth do you have? You got $100,000 in your bank account? You got 34 billion ready to blow, 9 billion ready to blow, motherfucker? I'm just asking the question. I'm asking the question, man. I'm begging you to come on the platform. I'm begging your ass to come here and to have a fucking conversation instead of fucking hiding behind an avatar in the fucking comment sections. You fucking asshole. You're an asshole, man. I told you. Look, man. And look, I understand that black people need to become more financially or more fiscally prudent as they circumnavigate the waters of American capitalism. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that sometimes black folks don't make bad decisions. But to say all of the distribution of wealth in this country is owing to the indolence and the laziness of black folks in the United States is pure fucking Toby, Uncle George bullshit. It's bullshit. Because anybody who knows anything about economics would know that anyone who knows anything about how the wealth in the United States was garnered to begin with was due to slavery. How did Harvard generate its wealth? Slavery. How did Yale get its wealth? Slavery. How did Brown get its wealth? Slavery. Slavery. But we don't want to have a conversation about that because we're too preoccupied with talking about the moral culpability, the personal responsibility, the individual initiative of any fucking individual black person. Which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Stay out of my comment section, coon. Stay out of my fucking comment section, man. I done gave you the invite to come here and to talk and to have a discussion. But instead of doing that, you keep on with these snarky ass comments in the section. And I'm asking you, what fucking, if you call yourself a black man in the manosphere, what the fuck are you drawn to? What? What are you drawn to, bruh? You drawn to being able to, deprecate black men? To talk discouragingly and to speak derisively about black men? What the fuck are you here for? That's my question. What are you here for? Why are you even hovering around like a fly around shit in the space for? And I can understand that, on social issues, we can make the case that there's some things that are appealing to us related to the Republican Party or conservatism in general. And, look, the other point of this thing is, I said this a long time ago, and I've said it recently. I gave an entire presentation on what I thought was problematic about the metaphysics of the person from modernity. I talked about processual existent events, event concrescence, and then I talked about imminent emergence and novelty. And that was the background or the backdrop for the metaphysics of the person that we should adopt. And it's corroborated by social science, neuroscience, and so on and so forth. I mean, look, anthropology, biology, and the entirety of this, like what we kind of know now about human behavior, behavioral psychology. But instead of talking to those points, the first thing I get is the Chicken George bullshit. The same talking points that it doesn't take a genius to ape, to mimic, to imitate. It's the same bullshit. And then another talking point was something like this. Well, using those, you say the South is something wrong with the South. Ain't nothing wrong with the South. I mean, the peoples in the West and the East, they's are doing as worse as off than the peoples down in the South. Like, really, man? Are you serious, bruh? Are you serious? That's like a legitimate argument to you? You see, financial centers, they shift and they move from place to place in the United States. At one time, Chicago just so happened to be a financial hub. And so a lot of black people left the South, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and they moved to Chicago in order to find a better financial situation for themselves. And they did it. And when they got there were plenty of jobs for them. A whole bunch of jobs. And they prospered there. I mean, the proof is all over the south side of Chicago. Now, the West's fucked up as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't look the greatest, unless you go further out into the west suburbs. But damn, black people created decent communities in Chicago. And then the floor fell out of it. But even when they were working in manufacturing jobs in Chicago, when it was a financial center, they still were subjected to racism. You dim-witted motherfucker. Just because people move north, south, east, or west, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to run away from or avoid racism. People in the Democratic and the Republican Party, people on the right and the left still practice racial discrimination. And I invited this guy to come into the chat. To come in on the show. I gave you the opportunity to come in and to have a discussion. But instead of doing that, you want to hang out on the sideline and, start Twitter beefing and shit in the comment section. I'm like, come on, man. Come on, man. Are you serious, man? Now, do I think white folks are going to give black folks reparations? I don't think they are going to do it. Do I think black people should be arguing for them? Yes, I do. Do I think black people, should they be exercising fiscal responsibility to the extent to which they can? Yes, they should. However, it still does not account for the fact that the wealthiest people in this country, by and large, are white people. And that's no incident. It's no incidence. It's no incidence. Well, you have no proof. You can't prove that these white people hate us. You can't prove. It's all on us. We like to eat the church's chicken. You don't get out of here with that coon shit, man. And another thing that gets my goat, and that people can't really account for apart from considerations related to race. Did you know that the average black person that goes to college typically ends up making less money than a white boy who dropped out of motherfucking high school? Explain that shit, Mr. Styles. How is it that a white guy who drops out of high school over the course of a lifetime can wind up earning more money than a black college graduate? When the system announces that in order to be successful, what you need to do is you need to go to college. Not the case for white guys. Huh. Look here, man. Right now, I need a little support. If you like the content of the channel, make a donation. I'm about to take a break right quick. And when I come back, I'm going to get into the proceedings that I was supposed to be getting into before I got sidelined and sidetracked with this Chicken George bullshit. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
I told you to do Biden. Now we done lost a damn vote. We done lost a vote. That's gonna go to Trump. God damn.
I mean, when you mention black people, you mentioning black women. So don't count yourself out.
No, that's not true.
I told you to do Biden. Now we done lost a...
I didn't mean to do that shit twice, but I did it. My bad. So anyway, you know that we're starting a fundraising campaign, a crowdfunding campaign for the documentary, The White People of Black People. Starts on 1/1/21. Needs you to go to Indiegogo and to make the project happen and get it off the ground. Here's the chance where you can put your money where your mouth is. You say that you want to improve the condition and the quality of life for black men, and that you want to have a voice, and that you feel like you're overlooked, you're glossed over, you're marginalized, you're pushed to the periphery. Well, here's an opportunity for you to have men who cavort with you in this space to make a statement such that your viewpoints can be more thoroughly heard. And it would add credibility to your sentiments and to the arguments that you make as you engage in your day-to-day life. Because I'm going to tell you something. We can continue to hang out in this space and talk to each other in an echo chamber, or we can make a push. We can make a move. This is bigger than YouTube. The conversation has to go beyond YouTube. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with YouTube, but something has to move beyond YouTube, because we need to have a place at the table in the media so that black men are called upon, who are experts in black male studies, can begin to say something on behalf of black male issues, instead of having everyone else now who speaks about those issues, who don't really have our interest at heart, and who don't really represent our ideas and our thoughts and our concerns. Period. So put your money where your mouth is. Either we can stay stuck in a constant bitch and gripe session, or we can push the envelope. It's on you. It's your choice. The choice is yours. So anyway, I'm going to share the screen, man. And I'm not going to read all of this article, but I am going to read part of this article. And the article is dealing with the subject matter. It's dealing with the issue of why the United States doesn't have a European-style welfare state. Why is that the case? Why? Why is it the case? I assume you can all see that. I think you can see this, okay? Why doesn't the U.S. have a European-style welfare state? Now, this paper was written by Alberto Alesina and Edward Glaser from Harvard University and the NBER. So, it was done in 2001. And I'll just read the abstract. I'm not going to read all of this because I'm not going to spend all day here. The abstract for it basically says, look, European countries are much more generous to the poor relative to the level, or excuse me, to the U.S. level of generosity. So Europeans are more generous as it relates to the poor. And so what they did was they developed economic models. Economic models suggest that redistribution is a function of the variance and the skewness of pre-tax income distribution. So before shit is taxed, economic models suggest redistribution is the function of the difference and the skews of pre-tax income distribution, the volatility of income, the social cost of taxation, and the expected income mobility of the median voter. And after going through the models and using differential equations to work out the differences between the various models and the outcomes between those in the European market and the US market, they came to the conclusion that none of these factors appear to explain the differences between the United States and Europe. Instead, the differences appear to be the result of racial heterogeneity in the US and American political institutions. Racial animosity in the US makes redistribution to the poor, who are disproportionately black, unappealing to many voters. American political institutions limited the growth of a socialist party and more generally limited the political power of the poor. So that's the argument right there. Now I'm gonna read a couple of paragraphs of this shit, and then I'm off here, man. Basically, they came to the conclusion the European governments redistribute income amongst their citizens on a larger scale than does the US government. European social programs are more generous and reach a larger share of citizens, including men. In the United States, they only give social programs, for the most part, by and large, to women with children. Now, if you have a problem with traditional families and your ability to be able to have one, well, I can then understand how you could say something to the effect of, well, I'm more conservative. Then I can understand it. But when you're looking at gross economic inequality of the kind that you see in the United States related to race, I just don't understand how you can hold the argument up to water. I just don't. European tax systems are more progressive. Europe has more intrusive regulations that are often meant to protect the poor. In this paper, we try to understand why. The literature on the size of government is rich and varied. However, here we do not focus on the size of government per se, but on the redistributive side of government policies. Thus, our goal is narrower than answering the question, what explains the size of government? Since we focus on a single, though increasingly important role of fiscal policy. In another sense, our focus is broader because redistributive policies go beyond the government budget. Think, for instance, to labor market policies. In other words, how much people get in the market as they work on a day-to-day job. You got some people who work at McDonald's in Europe and they get damn near 20 some odd dollars. 25, damn near $30. In America, it's a minimum wage job. We consider economic, political, and behavioral explanations for the differences between the US and Europe. So in other words, all the shit Mr. Stiles is talking about, behavioral explanations and political explanation, how people respond to what they consider to be the behavioral explanations for the differentials between income or wealth or whatever the case may be. Economic explanations focus on the difference and the skewness of the pre-tax, pre-transfer income distribution, the social cost of taxation, the volatility of income, and the expected income changes of the median voter. We conclude that most of these theories cannot explain the US-Europe differences. Pre-tax income in the US has both more variance and is more skewed. There is no evidence that the dead weight losses from taxation are lower in Europe. The volatility of income in Europe appears to be lower than in the US. There is some possibility that the middle class in the US has a greater chance of moving up in the income distribution, a feature that would make the median voter more averse to redistribution. So the idea here is that, okay, well, so some people in the middle class are more upwardly mobile than maybe perhaps in Europe. So this accounts for the reason why. But the reality of the situation is most Americans are not rich. They're not wealthy at all. But I digress. Political explanations for the level of redistribution focus on institutions that prevent minorities from gaining political power or strictly protect individuals' private property. Cross-country comparisons indicate the importance of these institutions in limiting redistribution. For instance, America does not have proportional representation, which plays an important role in facilitating the growth of socialist parties in many European countries. America has strong courts that have routinely rejected popular attempts at redistribution, such as the income tax or labor regulation. The European equivalents of these courts were swept away as democracy replaced monarchy and aristocracy. The federal structure of the US may have also contributed to constrain the role of the central government in the redistributive area. The political institutions result from particular features of US history. The formation of the US as a federation of independent territories led to a federal structure that often creates obstacles to central redistributive policies. States' rights. You get it? The relative stability of the US means that it is still governed by an 18th century constitution designed to protect property. And in case you didn't fucking know, you know who was the primary property during the 18th century, don't you? Yo, black ass. But oh well. Oh well. As World War and Revolution swept away the old European monarchies, the 20th century European constitutions that replaced the old regimes were more orientated towards majority rule and less towards the protection of private property. Moreover, the spatial organization of the U.S., in particular its low density, meant that the U.S. government was much less threatened by a socialist revolution. Many of the European institutions were either directly implemented by revolutionary groups or a response by elites to the threat of violence. Finally, we discuss reciprocal altruism and redistribution. Reciprocal altruism implies that voters will dislike giving money to the poor if the poor are perceived as lazy, which they are in the U.S., perceived as lazy. Why are you poor in the U.S.? Because you don't work hard. That's the primary narrative that continuously gets put out there again and again and again. Except white people are poor during the 30s. Then they create programs to help ameliorate their condition. But I digress. In contrast, Europeans overwhelmingly believe that the poor are unfortunate. This difference in views is part of what is sometimes referred to as American exceptionalism. And here's the kicker. Racial discord plays a critical role in determining beliefs about the poor. Since minorities are highly overrepresented amongst the poorest Americans, any income-based redistribution measures will redistribute particularly to minorities. The opponents of redistribution have regularly used race-based rhetoric to fight left-wing policies. Across countries, racial fragmentation is a powerful predictor of redistribution. Within the U.S., race is the single most important predictor of support for welfare. America's troubled race relations are clearly a major reason for the absence of an American welfare state. Now, all I can say is this. In the end, that's all I can say. We know the racial history of the United States. We know it well. We understand it thoroughly. I've walked down a street named Jefferson Davis, which was dedicated to honor a Confederate general, and we was called a nigger by an old white man. Now, my first impulse was to knock this old ass motherfucker off his bicycle as he tried to get me out of his way, or to, yell or shout to get me out of his way, but I didn't. I thought to myself, what a miserly man. What a miserable and a wretched man to hate me, and I've done nothing to this motherfucker at all. Never did anything to one of his peoples or his kind. But I'm a nigger though. But now I'm supposed to believe that all of these people, young or old, male or female, straight or gay, have nothing but love and reverence for all people who work hard. And that they're just wanting the people who are the most talented and the best qualified. We already know that there's evidence if you have an ethnic sounding name on your job application, you get less callbacks. I already said that we already have evidence that if you're a high school dropout and you're white, you're more likely to get a better job and have a better income distribution over the entirety of your life than a black man with a damn college degree.
Keep it real with your dog no matter what. Free. Same bitch that claims she love you, she'll set you up. Free. You keep it real with your dog no matter what.
I accidentally hit the button on the young Dolph. But you get the picture, man. You get the picture. America could actually do more to improve the working conditions and the conditions of people going through dire straits in this country. And they would do it if the population was more homogeneous. But they're not doing it because the country is racially stratified. But the fucked up point about it is, in the end, is that you got black folks, black people, who are so upset at other black people, predicated upon the same stereotypes about black people that have been put out here since the fucking start of slavery till its end, and it persists till now. You got black people who don't want to see other black people doing good and will do anything they can to prevent it, to stop it, or to prevent it from occurring, which is complete and utter stupid insanity to me. I can't understand it. I can't fathom it. I don't get it. Please, somebody help me understand this shit. It's black people who will say black people are lazy. It's black people who will say black people need to do better, need to be more responsible. It's black people who will make those comments. It's Negroes who are doing it. And they ain't got a fucking pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They are fucking dropping the bucket compared to the wealthiest Americans. You would think somebody's coming after their money. That somebody's coming after their income. Somebody's going to diminish the quality of their lives in order to try to get this straight, and in order to try to argue for a more equitable distribution related to the only one life you live on this planet and how you start off with shackles on your feet. You would think that they would be more sympathetic, but instead, you got a whole bunch of, "House hurt, boss, house hurt." Please make the shit make sense. Make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. I'm waiting. Please help me understand it. I'm going to take a break for 1 second. I'm going to come back. If nobody comes back in by the time I'm gone, I'm out this joint, man. So I just want to understand it. I don't get it. Tell me, explain to me how these Negroes think, because I'm lost. I don't get it. I'm trying to understand it. I really am. Help me understand. Alonzo Hall in the Vanguard. Welcome to the stream. What's good with y'all, man? How y'all doing this evening?
How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm trying to get some things. I'm trying to get some things situated in my head, man. And look, I understand that, I don't like free riding any more than the next man. Okay? I used to do construction work. Okay? And when people didn't pull their weight on the job, I bitched at them. Okay? I'm like, motherfucker, you better get your hand on this bar. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying, man? I understand the sentiment of free riding. I understand it perfectly well. Okay? But what is this? What is the origin of this sentiment that black people are shiftless, lazy, and stupid by other black people, especially black men in the manosphere? Where the fuck is this coming from?
I think a large part of it is the internalization of white supremacy that's happened with black people since integration. Um, and I really don't think it's particular to just black men. I think it's just black people in general. A lot of us just have low self-esteem. We're inculcated with messages and visions and pictures of us being, secondary, of us being maids and manservants and not important and dehumanized. And then on television, you see nothing but, black men and women being murdered and shot down. So our value, our life, our value is seen as nothing. And so many of us cling to the idea that I can separate myself if I begin to think like my oppressor, if I begin to act and observe my oppressor, you know. And that's just what I feel like personally. That's how I look at
You know, look. I don't want to say anything until Alonzo and the brother Black to the film makes a statement. But before y'all get to it, Be Hillfire, thank you so much for that support. I really appreciate it. And before I have them speak, I want to give you some fanfare. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Devin Hatcher, Jeff Rugeta, and GL, who hit me up on the Cash App. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate that. I'd like to give you a round of fanfare as well. So, gentlemen, please, would you like to make some statements?
Yeah, I can start. Initially, the reason I came up, I wanted to talk about the wealth transfer with families, but I think, especially in the Black Manosphere talking points, a lot of that comes from. I think a lot of it is guilt, right? Because as Black men, when you become successful, you get looked at a multitude of different ways. Let's look at, for example, coming from the Black community going to college. When you finally go to college, you're usually the first of generations going to college due to things like slavery, as opposed to your white counterpart who is of many, or even if they are the first of, they're given money after college for things like paying off the student loan, which is a mortgage in itself, or for money towards buying a house, as opposed to, yo, you got it, hook me up. You done made it out of college, not realizing that, I got X amount of thousands of dollars worth of debt too.
Yeah, Silent Lamont Hill says the real answer is because that type of commentary endears them to the white people they want to be next to. And I think that there's some truth in that. Okay. So, well, I think that there's a shred of truth in that statement that he's making there. Black to the film, would you like to make a comment, sir?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. First, I just want to thank you, Gigi, for all your work. I just want to say that first. I think I got two parts to my comment. The first part I would say, as it pertains to black men, I would say a lot of them they lack a strong black role model. When I was growing up, I had a lot of black men, including my father. Obviously, my father was with my family. I grew up with my dad in the home, but I had other black men outside in the community that really took an interest in mentoring me and making me understand at an early age about protecting the black male image and not turning and cannibalize it on our own, as so many of us have the curse of doing that since we were abducted and taken from our homeland. The second part I would say is that a lot of black people just are not living in reality. They are under a delusion that things are going to get better. And actually, I'm working on something right now. I can't talk about it, but I realized that the Civil Rights Act, the first one is like, well, no, the first one is like 1867 or something like that. But then the second one is 1964. And this is 2020. And I was like, when I was looking at these acts, I'm like, dang, if you calculate the years, we're still dealing with this stuff. And I look at my nephew and I feel sorry for him because I think he's going to grow up, he's going to reach his 40s like myself, and he's going to probably, most likely, still be dealing with the same problems that we're talking about today. So I just think that, between the lack of competent male role models in a lot of black men's lives, and I also think that the delusions we're under is what's really hurting us. We just don't want to live in reality.
I get you, brother. And hey, thank you for your comments, all of you. Um, and we could just continue this discussion, but my whole thing is, look, I said this before, and I'll say it again. Hard work is neither a necessary or a sufficient condition to be successful in the United States, man. Yeah, and all I can say is that's a general rule. Now, I'm not saying that you can't become successful by hard work or that there is not a virtue associated with hard work. I'm not saying that, okay? And I think that most human beings, provided that they have a context in which they can improve their talent index, they'll work, especially if they're remunerated handsomely for it and they have a living wage and they're relatively comfortable. Okay, people like to work. I mean, and if they do something productive that they like to do, people like to go to work. I like to work. I mean, I like to invest my time in energy into projects which enhance my capacity as a human being. I think most people like to do that. Okay, now is education a problem? Is how black people educated in this country a problem? I think so to some extent. You know, uh, but come on, man. Like we can't get past this problem by only attacking ourselves, and that's the point I want to make, man. And I invited that brother up here, man, to come here and to lay it on the table, to lay it on the line. But I don't think that there's any ground to be gained from speaking derisively about one another and to talk about our innate laziness, our innate inferiority and backwardness intellectually, our lack of discipline, and so on and so forth. These are systems. Look, let me just say this. A lot of times we get held to higher standards than anybody else because we're trying to, you know, John Henry our way through this shit. And Dr. Johnson talked about this on one of his shows, like this whole idea that we could, just pull up our, the sleeves on our shirts and just get to work and get it in, and then all of a sudden things will work out for us. We got to do the work. I'm not saying that we're not required or obligated to do the work to improve our condition. I think that we are. But I think that along the path of doing the work and trying to reshape the minds and the brains and to try to move out of pathology, I don't want an added layer of pathology that deprecates black men. I don't like that shit. I'm just tired of hearing this shit, which basically feeds into the whole notion of black inferiority to begin with. I don't like it. I think it's coonism. I don't appreciate it. And I'm going to speak out against it when I encounter it. And we can do better than that. I think we can do better than that. But that's just my opinion. I'd like to give a shout out to ABX again. He says, it's so much easier to make a blanket statement indicting your own people rather than holding whiteness responsible. Basically, fear of white folks. And I think to some degree that's the truth. You got a lot of black folks, man, who they're looking for a pat on the head from their white counterparts, their white buddies. And it's a lot of money in that shit. It's a lot of money in this. It's a lot of money in stereotyping and speaking derisively about your own kind. There's bread in that. There's money in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, even somebody like Michael Eric Dyson, who's supposed to be a black academic, this guy, for him to come out and say you've received your reparations because he appointed, General so and so. We have an entire industry of black people who are scared to be black, essentially. They want to be black skinned white folk, and I think that we need to, like you said, we need to call that out specifically. There's no way that us, capitulating to these people is going to change anything. It's not going to better us. And like the brother was saying earlier, we've had all these different movements, multiple civil rights movements, and all these different acts and laws change, but the situation hasn't changed. And I think that, like Dr. Amos Wilson says, in order for things to change, that means that we need to change first. And I'm not saying that in terms of respectability. I mean, just in terms of understanding who we are and understanding that we're dealing with people who are diametrically opposed to our survival, period.
So here's one thing that I personally look at in terms of one of the language is a very important thing. And I think in spaces that we have to realize one of the most important things we say is, white supremacy or white superiority. So a supremacist, if for all intents and purposes, you would call me a black supremacist, because a supremacist wants his opponent to be at their best or to have an advantage against him. So when he dominates, as black men generally do in every category that we ever enter, you can really say that you are superior to your opponent. So that's the purpose, I believe, in superiority. I don't believe in even giving them a term to have that thought cross their path, because it's untrue. When we see, again, starting from a disadvantage, any arena that a black man has gotten into, he's dominated.
Well, look,
yeah, that's if we get a fair. That's if we get a fair opportunity. That's why I think we're discussing is that.
Well, that's even without a fair opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. That's true as well. But I mean, for them, I look at it like this, and I don't want to downplay anybody's hard work or anybody's successes. But I think really it's like I call it like a lottery. Like sometimes some brothers are just in that season, they just in that right place, they just in that right time, and they just around the right type of people. And then, but that's far and few for the majority of black men. The majority of us are in the trenches, and we're trying to make these things work. Where bombs are going off all around us, because you got your woman bomb. The woman that you live with in your home when you go home after dealing with the bombs in society, and then in between that, it's like just going to work, right? You deal with the laws, they pull you over. Then you get to work late that one time, and then they're talking about trying to terminate you. I mean, I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Whereas another brother, he might just be in a better slot. I hate to use the word luck, but I think it's just some of us are just in better opportunities by our chance in life, and then the majority of us aren't. And what we need to change is I was thinking about this last night. We need to just have better control over our fate, so that the majority of us, we all have great opportunities, no matter where we're at in this country.
I mean, I personally think that I don't think that we can overlook that. We can wage the economic warfare, which we've done time and time again. That stuff was all destroyed, whether it be eminent domain or by white mobs. That stuff was destroyed. So I think at the end of the day, I think we're playing this game, and I don't want to really advocate for open warfare or anything like that, but I think we're playing this game as if we don't think it's going to come to that. That's what we're dealing with right now. And the reason that we get so much hatred and disdain from not only white folks, but Asians, Hispanics, and all these other groups is because it seems like we have a certain level of refusal to defend ourselves.
Yes, we are the last conquered. Well, I say like this. Well, one, we are in a de facto state of war, and we have been since we've been abducted. So that's been going on forever. I don't know why people say there's a race war coming or something. It's already happening. It's happening. We are really, if the UN steps in, as black men are concerned, we're really genocidal. Genocide is what's going on right now, as far as how this country deals with black men. But
genocide's been going on since.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I want to real quick speak back to one quick additional solution or building block to the solutions is generational wealth, right? And so conveniently, Green Gorilla just put up something that was 31 families of Caucasian descent, showing that often they got their money from in the 1800s, or slavery. They also got this by passing it down tax free through things like, ironically enough, life insurance, which I sell. But if you look at it, Green Gorilla also did a chart showing Black ownership in equities and mutual funds over the course of the last 30 years. In Q4 from 1990 to 2020, we've shown, as far as Black people, an increase from 0% to 1% over that 30 years. We've shown others an increase from 0% to 7%, I believe that down to 3%. While whites currently own 95%, and this is just mutual funds and equities, but this means that they run the wealth of the world. Something as simple as a life insurance policy can actually pass down that generational wealth, and that's if you die. I've been doing this for 11 years, and I speak to many of Black folk who get it all twisted and turn around and want to go invest in Bitcoin or something. I'll give you an example. I have a gentleman who is so happy that Tesla stock at $1,600 is going to the S&P 500. However, I've been trying to tell him, why don't you get an indexed universal life insurance policy, my brother? This is a life insurance policy that mirrors the S&P 500 from a life insurance company. Life insurance companies have been paying dividends consistently since the 1700s. So the S&P 500 that you're happy that Tesla is getting onto has had a relationship with this life insurance company for over 120 years. Let's stop worrying about Jay-Z and worry about Leo Cohen, the guy who signs Jay-Z's checks.
Yeah, and look, let me just say this. So that, I mean, there's look, let me just say this. Black men wouldn't be having the kind of arguments that they're having with Black women if there was a social safety net for everybody in this country, or there was a basic income where people could live a life without having to worry about how they're going to have their lights on, their gas on, and all this shit. Because we already know that most of the problems that occur within the context of relationships anyway are predicated upon what?
Money.
It's all about money. And all I'm trying to say is this, man. You only live one life. That's all you get. You don't get two. You don't get three. You get one. And it just so happens that Black men are at the bottom of the barrel, man. And we know this. And I do agree with the brother, the Vanguard. Like, we're a conquered race, man. We're at the bottom of the barrel financially. I wouldn't say that they're committing acts of genocide against us, but they have the population right where they want. They're managing and controlling the ebb and flow of our reproduction and of our advancement. Okay? And it's a hell of a position to be in, and at the same time, to be told that you're the white people or Black people, man. There's just so many insults being hurled at us. And then not only did that, have that happen, but then to turn around and have other Black men echo the talking points of white men and to speak derisively about us and to talk about how indolent, how lazy, and how irresponsible we are. Now, and look, I get it. I understand it to a certain extent. I get it, especially if it's coming from a place where you want Black people to be able to do better and you want men to be able to do better. I get that. But at the same time, couching Black progress in terms of economic advancement, given the kind of economic situation that Black people are in and the expectations that are put upon Black men relative to the economic situation that we're in, is ridiculous, man. We got to think better. We got to do better. And we have to grant each other a little bit of leniency. And we need to find out how to attack the root of the problem instead of turning the problem inward and attacking ourselves. That's my thing, man.
So what do you think? So what do you think about this idea? to the problem, Green Gorilla. I've been trying to work on this for several years now. I mean, I just want to get your feedback. So, I know that if we put enough of our personal finances together as black men, I estimate we can come up with at least 300 million, 500 million, roughly. And I do recall from my years when I was a stockbroker, right? So like a share in a corporation is basically just voting rights, right? It's basically just allowing you to elect officers, sometimes board members. It depends on the bylaws. Do you think maybe a solution would be for us to do that as black men, to just pull our personal finances together, we direct it into a corporation that doesn't have to be a wealthy corporation, but of significant value, that then we can control it, monetize that opportunity that they create for our own brethren, and then also employ more black people? What do you think about that?
I think that black people need to look into credit unions.
Hmm.
That might be a more feasible alternative, and because a credit union is different than a bank. But and I don't want to get into all the intricacies of the differences, but at the end of the day, man, I don't know if black men are going to be able to come together in unison, in harmony, and but what I do, look, let me just say this, and this might piss a few people off. Okay, most white people in this country aren't wealthy. Do you know that?
Yes. Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
struggling. They're struggling like the rest of us. Okay. Now they're struggling less, but here's the deal: the top families in this country, like that chart I showed you, they're the ones with all the fucking money, man. And all these white guys think that one day I could be just like them. It's the fool's gold, man. And again, as this paper that I read points out, the reason why there's no more, why there isn't more equitable distribution, or there aren't, social programs that are more, open to the poor in the United States, is just because black people will cut their nose off to spite their own faces, man. They don't want to even help themselves if they consider that it'll help somebody out that they consider to be their natural enemy.
Black
And in
film.
actuality, we're not their natural enemy. I mean, if they are our natural enemy, it's because they made themselves to be our natural enemy based upon a false pretense. See, this all starts with Bacon's Rebellion, man. So I don't know if you
Mhm.
know anything about Bacon's Rebellion. I would encourage you to go check it out. But Bacon's Rebellion was a time in which you had an alliance between slaves and white indentured servants and white, workers, and they rebelled against the planter class. Okay, and white people shut that shit down, and they said, look, if we're going to have any kind of stratification going on in this society, it or if there's going to be some cooperation, it can't be among poor whites and blacks, or middle class whites and blacks, or working class whites and blacks. At some point, if some shit, if black people actually are going to be ushered in into some sort of security related to poverty, white people are going to have to be included in it. Poor white folks, or white folks who aren't well to do. But the trick comes in to convince them that us doing well is not their undoing. That's a fucking trick in and of itself. Now I don't know how to pull it off. 'Cause right now they it's like Nas said, man. You can be poor rich. You can have all the chips, be poor rich. Don't nobody want a nigga having shit.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, Bacon's Rebellion was, I'm pretty sure that was the last, I guess you could say, interracial rebellion, um, outside of maybe John Brown. And I think that was actually him and his sons. But I say all that to say, I mean, there's an industry, again, of these rich white people, or, where essentially they've created a culture that benefits them because it makes us the scapegoat. We place the blame on, the blame for everything is basically placed on the feet of black people, specifically black men. Um, and it's, miseducation is a huge thing as well. Because if you look at the history of the world, when you look at black people, we've really never done anything particularly wrong to any other group. And yet you see these people, they bring these people here, and you notice too with the advent of immigration into this country, they bring people who have specifically anti-black uh, aspects of their culture. In particular, Biden with him importing 500,000 Indians. I don't know how accurate that is, or if it's still accurate, but these people have a caste system, and the caste system is a racially based system. So they're importing more and more of these people into the country, and you see that this is part of a plan. This it seems to be part of a plan. Um, and we have not only do we have the issues that we've dealt with in the past 100 couple years, but we have the issues that we're going to have to be dealing with moving forward. And to me, it just seems like the culture has been so socially engineered to the point that we're not even considering these things. I mean, we're still talking about the 60s and the 70s. We have way bigger problems now, especially due to globalization. You know.
Yeah, man. See, look, world is moving forward, and America is just is drawing a line in the sand. And this country is just basically a corporatist country, man. It looks after capital, man. And I think the movement that could have been the catalyst for some kind of change in relation to how the wealth is distributed in this country, it just fell flat on its face. The what they call it, the Occupy Wall Street. It fell on its face, man.
Well, before that, you had Fred Hampton. You had the Panthers when they're trying to mobilize with the Rainbow Coalition, which they murdered him. So
yeah,
but
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
man,
Go on.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. Speaking of Fred Hampton, I don't know that anyone catch. It's on Netflix. It's called The Chicago Seven, and it's an interesting scene because it's like he died doing that trial. I don't want to spoil it for you guys if you choose to check it out, but if you watch it, you'll understand exactly why they assassinated Fred Hampton. Just something that he had mentioned just came off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but just wanted to put that out
Speaking of
there.
Fred Hampton and Stokely Carmichael, you should see the changes in SUNY Downstate Hospital in Brooklyn. When Stokely Carmichael was against that hospital and wanted it to be closed, versus the way it is now. I haven't been there in about a year, but the way it is now in Flatbush, where they diagnose people with Flatbush diabetes, and um, that hospital is soon to be defunded as well. So it is ironic the way those things go. But Black Film, I wanted to speak to you about your idea, and I think it's a great idea, but I hear that all too often it comes up in the Black community. And you as a stockbroker know, often Black folk are not accredited investors, and they don't have the risk tolerance to deal with a lot of this stuff. It sounds nice as hell, and that's what ends up getting a bunch of Black folk to run in droves and throw their money at it. And then they do things like what happened to Jay Morrison. Right now,
Hmm.
there's another crowdfunding thing, but all the Black folk that went to Jay Morrison trying to do this, trying to make it crowdfunding for an unsophisticated investor, and that's what everybody wants to do. So it seems like we're trying to emulate white folk. I want to invest, but you don't have. That's like, again, I go back to life insurance because it's building your financial foundation. It's like if you asked me to build a house and I started with the roof, you'd fire me. But all I ever see financially when it comes to, economics, this is one way we can battle back against white folks. You can't fight a war being broke. We can't buy weapons from Koreans or Arabs or Russians without the money to buy it. Because, let's look at Charlie Wilson's war. The Arabs bought weapons from America to fight against the Russians. 20 years later, 9/11. They used them same RPGs against the Americans they bought them from.
Yeah, no, no, no. That's correct, and you're exactly right about that. That's the problem that we as Black people don't have the fundamental financial educations to be investors. But I was just proposing that because my perspective, and again, I apologize if I offend anyone, but my perspective is that and this is going to break a lot of hearts, and I know Green Gorilla knows about this. There's a point of no return, right? And we are beyond the point of that point where we could change anything to our benefit. So what we have to do now is we have to try to make another type of circumstance for ourselves. We can't get that time back. There was a moment, there was a window where we could have did things without having to go to any drastic things, but I think if black men are going to survive in America, even just in the next 15 years, we're going to have to do something extremely drastic. And that's why I was proposing our personal finances coming together, because eventually they're going to snatch that away from us. When people talk about the Supreme Court being stacked, what they have is they have now the power to overturn amendments, kind of like with the Dred Scott decision, right? So now they have the power right now to overturn amendments. Biden, Harris, that's just for show. That's just a front for what's really coming down. And black men, we are top of the list to be. I like to say like this: when the inauguration happens, it's going to be a message going to say, "Black men report to slavery at 2 p.m." Because it doesn't matter what the politics are of the country. We are the ones that are going to be put back into a legal type of bondage. Whatever wealth we do have, it's going to be eviscerated further. We won't have anything except for being, if you're not an athlete or a questionable entertainer, an entertainer of questionable sexual orientation, you're not going to have any survival opportunities in America. And that's where we're at right now as black men. All this stuff about another 50 years. I'm 40, so I've been going through this since I was I was 6 years old. I don't have another 5 years, and I know some brothers coming up right now in their 20s. I don't think they even have another 20 years to go through it.
Yeah, so, I'm 27.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see it getting better, man. I mean, just in terms of just having the basic nuclear family, man. I don't even see that happening. Just in terms of, and I don't want to get into the gender war thing, but that's obviously an important thing for us to sustain our people, and I don't even really see that happening.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I mean, they destroyed that. I watch a lot of. I call myself black to the film because I watch a lot of TV shows, right? And what I'm seeing is a lot of interracial couples. But not that I'm a swirler or nothing. I'm not advocating for any of that. I'm just saying that when you see every successful couple now is a black female and a white male, that means that they were erasing the black male from the community of the nuclear family, right? And I was watching this show. It was a post-apocalyptic show when they had one black female in the cast, and she hooks up with a non-black man. And all I could think about was how, it's a post-apocalyptic show, so it's kind of like white supremacy. It's kind of like the leaders are a white man and a white woman. And I said the reason why she doesn't have a black man in the cast that she links up with is because they know that those two would try to take over and impose some type of equality in the future, right?
I agree.
So you got the white woman and the white dude that's running everything again, even after the world ends. And the white dude is like the white girl tells him something about who she doesn't want, and then he goes and gets rid of them so they don't be in the bunker. He just does it on his own or for her own whims, or who she doesn't like. It could be their shoes. She don't like their shoes. I'm just saying, whatever the white woman.
It's interesting because that was I don't mean to cut you off, but that's actually mirrored. I don't know if you guys heard about the incident out here in New York with the young brother who was with his father, I guess a jazz musician.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that. Exactly. See, that's where we're going. Like that type of stuff. I'm from New York, so I know for a fact if he would have put his hands on that chick, everybody from New York know NYPD roll deep. They call themselves the biggest gang. If he would have put his hands on that chick at all or pushed her down and get him out his way, it would have been at least 50 cops there in 5 minutes. And somebody would have got murdered, and it would have been a black man. One of them would have got murdered. The other one would have got beaten up really bad. That's just how it is. But yeah, that's where we're going. These people can just walk around. They can just disrespect us. They can, you know what we're being killed for? And I tell people this all the time. When you look at the lynchings, and I'll stop right here so more people can talk. But when you look at the lynchings and you look at today, you got brothers just killed off of allegations. White people didn't kill him because they didn't think he wasn't going to get the most severe justice in their court system. They just murdered the person because they could, and they knew nobody would do anything to them. And that lady did what she did because she knew she could. Just like the lady in Central Park. They know that they can do things to black men and nothing's going to happen to them in their own court system. And that's a dangerous place for us to be.
You notice we don't have that issue with Asians, and Asians are a smaller population, but one thing that they do have is economic prowess. So one of the things I want to speak to again, because we have a lot of black folk who keep talking about investing. And the problem with this is this, and we're talking about extreme moves. You being a stockbroker, understand that none of your clients investing in the stock market to get rich, correct? They invested in the stock market for preservation of capital. So to
Correct.
lead black people to the stock market is fucking stupid. I'm not being offensive, but it is when we don't have capital yet to preserve.
No,
But
I'm not
everybody,
saying. No, I'm not saying lead nobody to the stock market, my brother. I actually like what you're doing with the insurance thing, and I was going to comment on that. I was going to comment that the reason why more black people don't have insurance is because they have a taboo about dying. You know, it's like my dad. Like I try to tell my dad about his will and all that stuff, and he just brushes it off. But he lives in Georgia, which Georgia has awful probate laws, so I ain't gonna see shit, right? But the point is that what I was just saying was that I know from my stockbroker experience that people do leverage buyouts. They do all kinds of hostile takeovers. You know, they
oh yeah,
basically raid. They basically raid corporations every day for control, for ownership control. I'm not sure how much of a company we can buy, but I'm pretty sure if we can get a quarter to 40%, we can have a proxy setup where we can put in power in that one corporation the people that we need to help our community. You know, it don't gotta
conversations
be.
like this, yeah.
Yeah, it don't
Hold
gotta
on,
I'm
be
well,
sorry.
exactly.
hold on. Let me. I got Ricky Manor here. How you doing this evening? Hello, are you there?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I had
hey,
to,
how
I had to unmute my mic.
are you talking to me or?
No, I'm talking to
No, I
Ricky
had to.
Manor. He just came
Oh,
in and he
my.
hasn't said anything just yet. I'm just
Okay.
giving him the opportunity to speak.
Well, if we're gonna do what we got to do with the black community, and I assume that everybody on this call are alpha males, then we would have to do this on our own. We're on our own. I mean, the sad news is that the what I would say the grim reality is, as alpha black men, we're on our own. We're intimidated. What is it? The world is intimidated by us, right down to our mates. Um, and you look at it from the aspect of this is the way it's always been since the slave plantation. You look at who was it that who was it that master trusted? The master trusted two people on the plantation, and it wasn't the butler. It was the black woman, and it was the preacher. Now we got to form our own for spirituality. We'd have to, as a whole, I would say it would be a each one teach one thing. But I think this is something that we can accomplish. It won't happen overnight. We'd have to do it in groups. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even say by using the interwebs to do it, because once it becomes something that will move in a positive direction, they would find a way to make a stumbling block on that. I mean, after the way that the sisters handled Ice Cube, you see what I'm saying? When he was trying to make these moves, I mean, who was working against him? White liberals and black women, and mainly LGBTQ.
Okay, man. Well, you know
Anybody?
what? We are reaching the 2 hour mark, and I'm about to cut this short because I'm about to eat, man. I'm hungry.
Right.
You know what I'm
I
saying? We
hear
can't do
you. I
shit if we
hear you.
don't eat. You know what I'm
Yeah,
To
saying?
the next
can
time.
I say something real quick?
We can't do a damn thing if we don't
I
eat.
hear
So,
you.
Ain't that
and
the
I'm,
truth?
I feel like my stomach's about to hit my back. Yeah.
Can
So,
I say something real
uh,
quick? Or?
but I'm glad that you came in, and for some reason, man, people get a little bit intimidated to get on the panels that or the invitation to have conversations. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I yell so damn much, but you know, uh,
They
you
just
know,
gotta
some
come correct. They just gotta come correct. That's all.
Hey,
look,
bro, from New
look,
York,
I
I'm,
don't
I'm gonna
mean
give
look.
you information in the chat.
I don't like to yell at people and to get into conflicts with people, man. But some of this stuff just pisses me off, bro. Like, to hear other black men talk derisively about other black men, knowing the situation that we're in, knowing the culture and how the culture has arisen, and then speaking derisively about other black men. I just don't like it, man. So we can do better than that shit. That's all I'm saying, man. But I'll catch y'all tomorrow, man. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about slavery, and I'm going to have a discussion as to whether or not black men were a primary demographic that was subjected to it, or was it any other demographic? Like, was it
Oh,
black
that'll be
women? Was
good.
it black men? Was it black children, boys? Female girls. Like young little girls, little boys. What was the primary demographic? And I'm gonna go through an academic paper to research that and to discuss it.
Very good.
So thank you. Somebody just hit me up in the cash app. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey,
But
GG,
yeah,
thank
man,
you for
I
everything you
encourage
do.
you all, man. I know I yell. Devon Hatcher, thank you, sir. I know I scream and I pitch a bitch at times. But Jeff Rugaita, I think I already gave him a shout out, but he hit me up twice. But participate, man. Come in. You're always welcome. Even if you disagree, I don't mind you disagreeing. I'd rather argue and yell with a motherfucker in person than to go back and forth with some bullshit comments in the chat, or to go through bullshit conversations on on comments. That's bullshit to me. You got to work it out with your brethren right face to face. Fuck all that bullshit and chatting and shit.
Right.
So y'all be peaceful, man. Love y'all. Now I'll holler at y'all tomorrow, man.
All right,
See you
peace,
tomorrow night,
everyone.
bro.
I'm gonna hit you up,
All right.
Alonzo.
No doubt, brother.
Love
I'm gonna hit
y'all.
you. Definitely will.
Peace.
One.
One.
Yeah. I'm a phenomenon, I shine like Orion. I came in a rap gang to smack it up like Heron, transform it like Megatron. Wait, like Yamatron, most rappers are some peons. I'ma starve them like Ramadan, I'm troublesome. You don't really want no troublesome, cause I pop guns like hood tick, do bubble gum. I been dumb, gon' stay that way till kingdom come. When the sun I'm at, unleash a demon, a polygon. I'm heavy, son, got more knowledge than Farrakhan, more gang than Cap. Come with that bishop named Don Juan, stay lit off some Shandon. Maybe about the Ram, stay drink to some Nordstrom. Call me that Dapper Don, more violent than Genghis Khan. The members of Taliban, niggas faker than silicon. Get hit like a .com, like soldiers in Lebanon. I'm bringing that red rum. When I get through with you, son, you gon' think I see ram. Run! I carry weight like a heavyweight. Bake more cakes than patty cake. Watch the fiend salivate. You a lightweight, bantamweight. Better contemplate. If you violate, make you levitate to the pearly gates. I fascinate when I conversate from the show me state where these niggas love to hate and hot murder rate or the waste. But this flow is just a taste of God's grace. Shining this light in the ugly place in the prophecy. Got more wisdom than Socrates, philosophies. You don't really want no parts of me, can't you see? I'm slicker than Mephistopheles, stronger than Hercules, more dangerous than the Damocles. The MCs trying me pretty please. I wet up they white tees, knock them out they wallabies. Now they touch my deliries. For coming up shorter than little C's when I break out the killer bees. I study music like Ocassi, hit chicks look like Ashanti. When I'm breaking them off, they yell at odd poppy. You rack rappers is sloppy, you can't stop me with that. We can sorry, copy, malarkey. I'm a monster like Frankenstein, rock harder than Palestine. You slams, dropping dimes, a snake and serpentine. Can't stand to see me glow like Nas with his big shine. All you haters cold in it, cold sores need calamine. But my hot shit like red bricks hitting your head. Leave the sour taste up in your mouth like lemon heads, like Simply Red. Wasted some years up in the feds when I touched down. Already red, that gave me head. I got higher vision for higher living. I'm highly driven. I'm acting women like it's some sort of sick religion. Driving an Impala, sitting on it, each 20 inches, and they spinning just like the planets in the solar system.
Black country people, over in Africa, down to America. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around, yeah. Black country people, up in Canada, down to Jamaica. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around.